What do you think changed from your experience from the time you started off with Mile to now as the VP? Because I think you've grown within, right?
Yeah, I think the very short answer is I don't code anymore. So I barely look at technical stuff anymore. And I do, there is a bit of, I do miss it a lot. But nowadays I find my day to day a lot of decision making, um, a lot of weighing in on options and weighing in on decisions that fundamentally affect or shape the trajectory of the company. And a lot of people think there's this thing that people say about like, the higher up you go in management or being an executive, the less you do, or kind of like, the like you're basically just, telling people orders around. That's partially true. I actually don't even know what I do some days, and some days it almost feels like I do nothing and I accomplish nothing. And I'm basically a big L on the balance sheet. But in all seriousness, a lot of it is basically answering questions that nobody has answers to. It sounds very fundamental, and it does absolutely sound like what an executive would say if he wants to keep his job kind of answer. But the truth is, there's also the aspect of taking responsibility for the decisions. As much as people like, or as much as I like to believe as an IC, when I started getting into the workforce, like working for a real company, I thought I was like, hey, I want to take accountability for everything. I want to drive all the decisions and do things, especially as a fresher grad or like somebody who's younger. The reality is that stuff's scary. Being able to having to answer for decisions that could cost like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. That's a big responsibility to bear. And as an executive, as a VP, my job is to say, yep, that like $1 million move that we made, I'm signing off on it and I'm taking full responsibility of that. And I think fundamentally that's a big change. And I've been fortunate to have experienced this in such a short burst. I'm able to really compare and contrast. But yeah, it's really just about that, being able to take responsibility and accountability for decisions that, the team and the company as a whole make.
Do you have any advice to someone that's starting up?
Advice for somebody who's starting out. The biggest piece of advice that I've come around to is take the best opportunity and take the best shot that's in front of you today. Basically, there's always this meta where it's like, oh, wait for the best, wait for your shot to come up and it'll happen. Or like, hey, kind of like postpone until you see the best option. But more often than not, being decisive, and I'm not saying like, hey, you get a job offer, just take it like right now, like type of vibe, but make your decisions not based on what could be, but what is. Make your decisions based on what benefits you today and what brings you the most benefit today. Because the reality of things is like time in the market beats timing the market, right? The more decisions you make, the more actions you take in order to progress your career, even if it's not the suboptimal decision, taken as a whole, it may compound to something better. It may compound to something that actually leads to that big thing, while at the same time giving you that benefit today. Like, for example, when I was starting out and exiting my company, my startup that I founded pre-COVID, I didn't want to be in engineering. I thought I wanted to go into product management, but there were more engineering roles open at the time and it was more rewarding. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to go into an engineering role. And then that just snowballed. If I had waited for a product management role to kind of go in, there's no telling if I would have compounded myself this fast, because just those fast decisions allowed me to just quickly rise through ranks. And when you apply that to your whole life about do we use this stack or this stack? Which this stack, this looks really good and looks really ideal, but there's some missing features. I would choose the stack that has complete features and that gives me benefit today rather than take a flyer on something that's completely experimental, right? It's still innovation. It's still something new, but I don't need to min-max that. I just need to make the call, get the benefits, rinse, repeat every single day. And I think that's what I would change when I when I was younger. That's what I would say to anyone who's starting out.